Hello and welcome back for part two. So this recording is going to focus solely on the Rule 56.1 statement. And I find these a wealth of information and very informative. And they might contain little details, and bits of tea that are not in the main body of the memorandum or declarations. Um, so let's go into this. Is even longer than a memorandum, just to forewarn you. So I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to read all the Bates numbers, just for that, just to clarify that situation. Um, I'll try and make as much sense as possible. Okay. Pursuant to Local Rule 56.1, defendants, Wayfarer Studios, etc., etc., etc. We all know who they are. Submit this statement. So, a Rule 56.1 statement. That is a statement of undisputed material facts. So they're saying, look, these are all the facts, and none of these are disputed. It's quite an important document when you're doing a motion for summary judgment because um, that takes into account both issues of law and issues of fact. So this is basically the statement that says all of these are facts and none of them are disputed. Okay, so it starts at the beginning. Baldoni conceived and originated a project to develop It Ends With Us into okay. Some stuff I'll skip over. I mean, we don't need to know when they co-founded the studios or that, what Baldoni is, what cell it says. Okay. Baldoni has written 2 books on gender-related topics, focusing on the question of masculinity and addressing, among other issues, the importance of mutual consent, one of which was a New York Times bestseller. Talk about the podcast when they met Colleen Hoover. Baldoni and Hoover discussed how the book could be adapted into a film, and on May 8, 2019, Hoover agreed to sell Baldoni the rights for a film, in part due to Baldoni's ability and experience approaching sensitive topics in his prior film. Okay. Hoover writing, you get the book, and based on the magnificent adaptation you did of 5 Feet Apart, I'm confident you could do this book justice and that our visions will align. Hoover also suggested that Baldoni play the lead role of Ryle. And the Bates numbers, they point to where the evidence is for that. Where's the text message? Where's the email? Every item of discovery has its own Bates number. At the start, like the way where it says Wayfarer here, that normally means it's come from Wayfarer. It might say Baldoni, it might say Lively, Reynolds, and that is just an indication of where that discovery has originated, and then the individual identifying numbers. I hope I'm explaining this one. In September, Baldoni and Wayfarer sought to, and eventually did, partner with No More, an organisation dedicated to ending domestic and sexual violence in connection with the film. Together, Wayfarer and No More plan to use the film as an opportunity to raise awareness about domestic violence and to provide education, resources, and support for survivors. And if you'll all remember, that did not happen because Blake Lively took over the film. Wayfarer's proposal included a requirement that, I'm assuming that means 1%, of the film's proceeds be donated to support survivors of domestic abuse. To date, No More has received nearly $600,000 in connection with the film. In early publicity planning for the film, Sony emphasized the need to center the redaction of the story, redacted. Sony cautioned, redacted. But unless they're cautioning against working with Blake Lively, then they won't much help. They're basically saying that Wayfarer Studios depends on separate LLCs, so they set up separate incorporations. each of their films or projects. And It Ends With Us Movie LLC was incorporated for the purpose of this film. Okay. And they were saying here as well, because it's quite important when regards to who is our Wayfarer and It Ends With Us movie. Well, there's one in the same. No, they're not. They have obviously members of Wayfarer have incorporated It Ends With Us movie. Yes, that's true, but the Ends With Us movie has its own bank accounts, funds, and it is separate from Wayfarer, independently engaged cast and crew of the film, a handful of whom are Wayfarer employees. Okay. They also had their own legal counsel, by the way. Beyond providing some financing, Sarowitz was not involved in the production of the film, and he did not supervise or manage anyone at Wayfarer Studios during the filming of It Ends With Us. So Blake Lively joined the production. Filming was set to begin in 2023 under Baldoni's direction. Lively committed to a role with adult and sexual themes. The book It Ends With Us was well known for sexual content, and there is a reference to part of a deposition transcript from Ange Giannetti. There's also a redacted reference to a Lively deposition. In or about December 2022, having met with Baldoni, Lively accepted an offer to play the film's female lead, Lily Bloom. There's an email from her talent agent, Warren Zavala, to Jamie Heath expressing that we're good on the financial terms for Blake. She's excited to do the film. Okay. I won't go through all the business side of things. I kind of just want to get to something new. Before accepting the role, something redacted. Zavala deposition, Stone deposition, Lively deposition, and all reference. The script Lively reviewed included scenes of sexual intimacy, intimate partner violence, and attempted sexual assault. So they're saying that she knew what she was getting into. She was, she was not taken by surprise here. Lively worked to revise the script before filming began. Here we go. Right. Her written work product included frank sexual language and overtly sexual themes. For instance, in April 2023, Lively sent Baldoni a revised draft for the scene in which Lively's character, Lily Bloom, and Baldoni's character, Ryle Kincaid, first meet on the rooftop of the building. The rooftop scene. Lively explained she revised the scene to include redacted. Okay. A draft called for redacted. On May 5th, 2023, Baldoni sent Lively some notes on the script from Sony executive Ange Giannetti, who wanted the scenes to involve more than just verbal interplay. Giannetti wrote, redacted. Lively exercised substantial control from the outset. Lively immediately exercised substantial influence over the development and shooting of the film. At Lively's request, Wayfarer agreed to abandon its intended filming location, Boston, where Hoover's novel was set, and to accept Lively's choice of New Jersey to accommodate Blake. Wayfarer also agreed to adjust the filming schedule to accommodate Blake Lively's other obligations. I remember seeing that in Ryan Reynolds' long-winded text message to Justin Baldoni, where he was thanking them for all of the accommodations they'd made. There's a lot redacted. Lively raised concerns about her physical appearance to Baldoni and others before filming begins. In a February 8th, 2023 voice memo, Lively asked if the start of shooting could be pushed back because she redacted. On February 9th, 2023, in response to Baldoni's comment Lively must feel redacted, after resolving a personal dilemma, Lively responded, redacted. Baldoni disliked Lively's self-depreciating joke. On February 17th, 2023, Lively asked Baldoni, redacted, with Baldoni responded, redacted. I'm sure there will be something interesting here. The same day, February 17th, Lively told Warren Zavala, her agent at WME, redacted. In a February 18th message to Baldoni, this is 2023, Lively wrote, redacted. Before filming began, Lively used famous friends to press Baldoni to accept her revisions to the script. So we know that this is going to be obviously Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. This is the dragons and the penthouse meeting, etc. On April 8th, Lively sent Baldoni her proposed revisions to the rooftop scene in which two main characters first meet. That's redacted. On April 14th, 2023, Baldoni told Lively he liked the revised scene. He added that he redacted. Lively explained that redacted. Lively has since disclosed that her husband, Ryan Reynolds, actually wrote the revisions to the rooftop scene that she proposed. An idiot. Why would you make all that fuss about being sidelined because you're a woman to coerce a man, to your male director, to let you, have some creative control over a script rewrite, for you to then hand it to your male husband to write it for you, and then go and announce that? And that's where I think you can, that's, for me, that was the first kind of, oh, that's a false allegation of, discrimination relating to her gender. Was her telling Justin Baldoni, I get overlooked in this industry when it comes to script writing, creativity, production, because I'm a woman. And she said that to, knowing Baldoni would then acquiesce and give her that opportunity. But all the time she didn't even use it. What a cow. Defendants took steps to create a safe set prior to filming. Wayfarer has a set of industry standard policies and procedures in place to prevent harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. So they got the handbooks and the anti-harassment policies and various things. Wayfarer has a complaints process to address alleged instances of harassment, discrimination, and/or retaliation. Wayfarer encourages reporting of all perceived incidents of discrimination or harassment. Wayfarer has a human resources department headed by Cynthia Barnes-Slater. Mitz Toskovich assists Slater. So they have a HR department. Wayfarer employees are required to participate in workplace harassment training. Baldoni participated in training approximately every 2 years, which is reasonable. Sarowitz is not involved in the day-to-day operations of Wayfarer Studios, and he is not responsible for administering Wayfarer Studios' harassment policies. Lively was under no obligation to engage in any nude or simulated sex scenes without her consent. The offer letter provided that Lively would not perform any nudity, simulated sex without her prior written consent and negotiation execution of a formal nudity rider. In April 2023, before filming began, It Ends With Us movie hired Elizabeth Talbot to serve as the intimacy coordinator for the film. On April 5th, 2023, Baldoni wrote to Lively, redacted. So this is about, we've got an intimacy coordinator, would you like to meet her? And she was like, nah, I'm good. So we now know who that particular producer was. So Baldoni reported to the production team. Seems like he doesn't want to meet with the intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. Alex Sachs, one of the film's producers, responded, "That's fine if Lively doesn't want to meet the intimacy coordinator now. We just have to walk her through what you and the intimacy coordinator are thinking." On May 4th, 2023, and before any filming had begun, and months before any shooting of the film's intimate scenes would take place, the intimacy coordinator considered the content of anticipated intimate scenes and suggested details and clarifications to both Baldoni and Heath. While expressing concern that the scenes were becoming too PG-13 as compared to the more explicit scenes in the book, Baldoni suggested that the intimacy coordinator discuss with Lively whether there were other ways of implying nudity that she would consider so as not to disappoint readers, while also expressing sensitivity for Lively's boundaries. He wrote, redacted. The intimacy coordinator agreed to have any necessary conversations to get clarity for the scenes, so both Baldoni and Lively are confident about the level of contact during the scenes. There's some deposition from the intimacy coordinator that is redacted. That same day, redacted. On or about May 8th, 2023, Baldoni and Lively were provided with nudity riders detailing their consent and boundaries concerning intimate scenes. On May 5th, 2023, It Ends With Us movie held a Respect in the Workplace Preventing Discriminatory Harassment and Retaliation meeting. The training was administered by law firm Mitchell, Silberg and Knupp. Heath and Baldoni both attended and completed that training in advance of filming. During the first phase of filming, Wayfarer distributed a preliminary crew list to the crew that listed Wayfarer's human resources contact Sylvia Barnes-Slater. All cast and crew were provided daily call sheets on the evening before each day of filming, which included a hotline number for workplace complaints, including sexual harassment, that directed them to a third-party organization to assist with any complaints. No intimate scenes involving Lively were shot in the first phase of filming. Filming began on May 15th and then stopped on June 14th, 2023, in deference to labor strikes by the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA. All filming during the first phase of filming took place on a set in New Jersey. None of Lively's sexually explicit scenes or scenes involving simulated nudity were rehearsed or filmed during this initial period. There's something from Alex Sachs's deposition that is redacted. Those scenes were rehearsed and filmed during a later phase of filming without issue or incident. A scene in which Lively's character gives birth was filmed on May 22nd. Lively claims the birthing scene constituted an intimate scene because there was implied nudity. Footage of the birth scene shows Lively covered with a hospital gown and a prosthetic belly. I am going to go and see if I can find that. What exhibit is it? 74. Where is it? I mean, it literally just jumps from exhibit 73 to 75, and I cannot find exhibit 74. Has it even missed it? Let's have a look. Okay, is it somewhere else? Sorry, I am just looking for this because that is the one thing I really want to see. And I was like, I got excited because it is there, but Like it's listed that it's there, but it's not on the docket. I will show you what I mean. I'll go share this. So it is it's sorry, just to go back here. It is exhibit 74 that we're looking for, and it's got exhibit 73 here, and then it just jumps to exhibit 75. There is no exhibit 74 that I can see, and I'm so annoyed now. Oh, sorry. I forgot to change screens. So there's exhibit 73, exhibit 75, no exhibit 74. That's annoying because that is really like the one thing I wanted to see badly. I'm sure it'll be around somewhere, but I can't see it right now. It is footage though, so maybe it's somewhere else and I'll have to have a look. Okay. So it's redacted from the Talbot deposition transcript and redacted from Isabella Ferrer transcript. On June 11th, 2023, before the Young Lily and Young Atlas intimate scene was filmed, Baldoni flagged to the production team that they would need to coordinate and work with the intimacy coordinator. Then we've got deposition transcript from Isabella Ferrer, that's redacted. Ferrer also wrote to Baldoni to thank him for an incredible experience on the set. She continued, "You are such a wonderful, smart, sincere director, and you created such a comfortable, safe space for me to feel like I could fully step into this role. I couldn't have asked for a more welcoming environment. You will stay with me for the rest of my life." All of the incidents Lively raises occurred during or before the first phase of filming. In a second amended complaint and deposition testimony, Lively points to various alleged incidents prior to or during this first phase of filming, which she alleges amount to sexual harassment and contributed to a hostile work environment. So we know that there was a meeting that took place with Lively, Heath, and Baldoni. So we've got Baldoni has included comments he made at the initial meeting. They are redacted. There's a lot of redactions. They're Lively transcripts. On February 28th, 2023, after that initial meeting, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote to Baldoni. Well, we know what he wrote. How much he loved Justin Baldoni, and he wants to tattoo a member of Wayfarer's staff's face on his perineum. Baldoni's private inquiry about Lively's wait for a scene. On or around April 23rd, 2023, outside the workplace and outside the presence of any Wayfarer studios or Angelus employee, Baldoni privately asked a personal trainer he had consulted with, who was working separately with Lively, what Lively would weigh when filming began. Baldoni, who suffers from chronic back issues, asked in anticipation of a scene in which he was expected to lift her. Do you know, if this was a case, if this was being shot in the UK, all the health and safety laws we've got, that would be a mandatory request. Even if someone didn't have a history of back issues, if you're lifting someone, it's got to be done safely. And discreetly having an idea of someone's weight so you can prepare and train for it is not an unreasonable ask. There's documentary evidence that shows Baldoni contemplating including such a scene in the film as late as December 28th, 2023. Baldoni never made the same comment in Lively's presence or in the presence of any cast or crew member. The trainer, acting on his own, because he's a dickhead, decided to share the comment with Lively. On or about April 25th, 2023, Baldoni met with Lively at her apartment. Baldoni's husband, Ryan Reynolds and two other famous friends were there. Reynolds chastised Baldoni for commenting on a woman's weight. What? Ryan Reynolds has commented on plenty of shit, like women's boobs. Lively subsequently described the meeting to a friend as follows. Redacted. Lively also alleged that Baldoni shamed Lively for her body and weight by offering to connect her with a specialist in probiotics after Lively caught strep throat for the 1,000,000th time, by the way, in 1 month, because Lively alleges the expert was instead a weight loss specialist. Lively has not offered any admissible evidence supporting that claim. She did not discuss it during her deposition, and she has not produced any documentary evidence indicating that the expert was a weight loss specialist. Documentary evidence shows that Baldoni discussed Lively's illness with the specialist and not her weight. The addition of sex scenes to the script. In late April 2023, before filming began, Sony executive Ange Giannetti encouraged Baldoni to shoot an R-rated film to reflect the content of the book. In April 28th, 2023, she wrote, "I will update Sony. You are going to try and get as much tasteful hot sex as you can. You find out if we are PG-13. Will Colleen be okay? And does she think her readers will be okay?" Okay, that's interesting. Baldoni discussed Giannetti's and Sony's suggestion about additional and more explicit sex scenes with Lively and Hooper. Okay. On or about May 4th, Baldoni worked with Elizabeth Talbot, the film's intimacy coordinator, to add specifics to the intimate scenes. He suggested Talbot discuss the scenes with Lively to determine how to portray more sexual intimacy in a manner consistent with Lively's personal boundaries and preferences. Redacted. So some redacted deposition from Blake Lively. Such discussion took place in the context of planning and choreographing a sex scene. Lively first volunteered her own personal experience before Baldoni shared his. Ah. Of course she did. It's alright for her to say it, but if a man says it to her, nope. Okay. Baldoni has publicly discussed his prior addiction to pornography on his podcast, which is aimed at male audiences, and in his published books. Right. Okay. Heath briefly enters Lively's makeup trailer. On one occasion, about May 16th, on or about May 16th, 2023, Heath entered Lively's makeup trailer while she was having her makeup removed. They had a brief conversation concerning a work-related issue. And there is Lively deposition transcript, which is redacted, and Heath deposition transcript, where he indicates the conversation was between 2 and 3 minutes long. Heath had been seeking to schedule a meeting with Lively, Baldoni, and Giannetti after several failed attempts. At the end of the shooting for the day, Heath suggested that they meet the following day. Lively said they could meet at her makeup trailer to discuss the timing for the meeting. Heath knocked on Lively's trailer door, and Lively permitted him to come in. Lively asked Heath to turn round while he was speaking to her, and he did. There is redacted Lively deposition. Heath deposition. They don't redact any of Wayfarer's own deposition transcript. Well, Some of them, yes, but some they've chosen not to redact. So they're quoted Heath's deposition transcript as saying, "As I took a step up, I saw that she was leaned back. She looked what I thought was either maybe breastfeeding or nursing. I said to her, 'Oh, it looks like you're busy. I can come back.' As I turned around, she says, 'No, that's okay. You can come in. Just look away.' And I said, 'Sure.'" Les Lively has testified, but that is currently redacted. 2 weeks after the incident occurred and months before this litigation arose, Lively raised the incident with Heath for the first time. She told Heath, "I asked you to look away and at some point you made eye contact with me. I'm not saying you were trying to cop a look. I'm just saying that I had asked you to turn away and you made eye contact with me." After expressing her displeasure, Lively moved on to other topics. The filming of the birth scene. A scene in which Lively's character gives birth was filmed on or around May 22nd, 2023. While shooting the scene, Lively was wearing a hospital gown, a prosthetic belly, and fabric over her genitals. Okay, have a look. That is 91. 91. So taking us, it's piled under seal. Okay, so can't look at that. Lively alleged that an actor Baldoni knew was cast as the doctor performing the delivery. The actor playing the doctor was a local union actor. Lively has subsequently alleged that Steve Sauerwitz was present on set during the birthing scene. Sauerwitz testified he was not on set during the filming of the birthing scene. He arrived later after the scene was filmed. He visited briefly for part of one day and just a few minutes on another day, which happened to be the day the birthing scene was shot. There is redacted testimony. Sauerwitz later spoke to Adam Monshine, who appeared in the birthing scene, regarding events on set. Monshine did not raise anything negative about his experience on set and shared a positive experience. I wonder if there's any of this is available. Attachment 6. Oh, okay. This is... Okay, so the Sauerwitz deposition regarding Adam Monshine is not sealed. Let's have a look. 236. There was a lot to get through. 236. Okay, so I'm going to share this tab. Right, okay. So Mr. Mancini, okay. Would it refresh your recollection if I told you one? Yeah, that sounds right to me. Do you know what scene he was in? Yes, he was in the birthing scene. Do you know what character he played? He played the doctor. The doctor that sat in between Miss Lively's legs while she was giving birth. I wasn't there. Have you seen the movie? I have seen the movie. Is that what happens in the scene? I don't recall. Did you talk... Do you know the stupidity of this, right? The guy's playing an obstetrician, right? For a woman who's had 4 children and given birth 4 times, she should know damn well that the obstetrician sits between the legs of the woman giving birth. Not anywhere else. I don't know why they're making such a thing of depicting a visually accurate portrayal of a birth. Did you talk to Mr. Mancini before he went to act for that scene? No. Did you talk to him after that scene? Yes. What was the nature of your conversation? Just his experience. And what did he talk about it? Sounded like it was positive. Anything specific you can recall? No, I don't recall. Also, he confirmed my memory, which is that I wasn't there at the scene. Bear in mind, this is Steve Sarowitz, who's been accused of coming in for the birth scene just to look at Lively's balls. When did that happen? During the course of the litigation. After litigation. I just double checked and said, I wasn't there for that scene. He said, I know, I was there. When did that conversation take place? I don't recall. Do you know roughly? Like month that would have occurred in? I don't recall the exact month. Do you talk to him on the phone? Yes. Do you recall about how long the conversation was? No. Did you talk to him about anything else? I don't recall. Oh, so that's questioning by Gottlieb, which is just, yeah. I mean, it's normal questioning, but when you read it like that and you kind of reading it almost like a script, it just sounds so stupid. Sarowitz did not know what scenes were being filmed at any given time, and he made no conscious decision to see Lively in any particular scene while shooting. Sarowitz did not know the birthing scene was being shot on the day it was shot. During his first visit on set, Sarowitz spoke to Brendan Sklenar. Sklenar was effusive in his praise for Baldoni, his directing, Wayfarer, and how he had been treated in general. During that visit, Sarowitz also spoke to Lively for a minute or two. It was a very friendly meeting, and she did not voice any complaints. There's redacted testimony referred to from Lively. Comments that Lively and another actor looked sexy. On or about May 18th, 2023, Baldoni commented that actor Jenny Slate looked sexy in her character's wardrobe, which included black leather pants. So there's deposition all under seal from Slate, Alex Sachs, Baldoni. He made this comment in the presence of others during the course of their work on the film. On or about May 23rd, 2023, Lively testified that redacted. Video footage of the incident, which we do have, shows Lively was fully dressed in an oversized fleece onesie at the time, that numerous actors and crew were also present and engaged in ongoing work at the time, that Baldoni's facial expression was neutral and not ogling or suggestive, and that after Baldoni apologized if his mark was inappropriate, Lively responded by saying, all good. I will do that as a separate, because I think it's about an 8-minute video, so I'm going to do some of these exhibits as a separate standalone video, because it's a lot. This is all a lot. Heath shows Lively an image of his wife's home birth, so we know about this. I will go past it, I think, but we know all this. This is new. Heath testified that he showed Lively a video depicting our midwife, my sister, my kids, my wife, myself, our newborn baby. I believe we were singing or praying. Heath and his wife were in a birthing tub with the baby, who was covered in a towel. So there's depositions that are sealed largely from Ange Giannetti. I'm assuming that Lively raised her grievances with that person. Other comments. Lively also alleges that during the first phase of filming, while riding in a car with Lively, her assistant, and her driver, Baldoni stated that he had not always obtained consent before sex. Baldoni was not questioned about this incident during 2 days of depositions. He recalls a conversation with Lively in which he told her about his own experience of having a romantic partner go beyond his personal boundaries of consent. Baldoni has written about this experience in his published books and discussed in public talks. So it was his consent that was not obtained in his personal experience that he shared, It was not that Baldoni, did something with and did not obtain consent from, the partner he had at the time. And it is a real dick move for Blake Lively to try and twist that and to make it sound like in that scenario, in that very personal scenario, Baldoni was the predator, just to bolster her false claims. Shit like that makes me really pissed off. And that is a fantastic, kind of visual representation of how she treats people's experiences of domestic and sexual violence. If she can gain something out of them, she will. What a bitch. Lively's subsequent conduct confirms Baldoni's account. In her protections demand, she objected to Baldoni referring to redacted. In subsequent text exchange, redacted. Okay, so I'm sure we'll hear about that soon. Lively gets COVID. On or about May 26, 2023, Lively and her baby contracted COVID on set. Other cast and crew members also got COVID. I mean, it's a communicable disease. Fuck's sake. Lively included her COVID exposure in her list of incidents that required protections, as discussed below, and also alleges it as part of her harassment claims. How is that harassment? You caught a disease that other cast and crew members also caught, that we'd only just come out of lockdown for. There was a worldwide pandemic, and you're sitting there going, because you caught it, it's evidence that they were harassing me. I will try to find my zen again. I've been going at this for I think we're now into 4.5 hours of recording so far, and I've got lockjaw, and I'm just so exasperated with Blake Lively right now. But I mean, stuff like I got COVID and including that as part of sexual harassment claims is just stupid. It's so stupid, and I don't get it. Like, literally, what is that adding? Lively's and another actor's concerns are promptly addressed before the first phase of filming concludes, and we have something redacted. Some deposition from Ange Giannetti again, that's redacted. An email on the same date, Lively asked, redacted. Lively's email did not mention sexual harassment or discrimination or make any accusation that any conduct rising to that level had occurred. There is testimony again from Ange Giannetti, which is redacted. Lively discussed the production with fellow cast member, redacted. In this communication, redacted. She also indicated that, redacted. Lively did not contact Wayfarer's HR department during the production, nor did she file a formal sexual harassment complaint with Sony or Wayfarer's HR departments at any time. And they do include an email from Cynthia Barnes-Slater, the head of HR, confirming that Blake Lively did not make a complaint to Wayfarer's HR department. On June 1st, 2023, Lively asked Baldoni, Heath, and producer Alex Sachs into her trailer. Lively discussed various topics, including Baldoni's comment that the wardrobe for Lively's character looked sexy or hot. Heath showing Lively an image of his wife around the time she gave birth. An instance in which Heath entered her makeup trailer while Lively was in a state of undress. An instance in which Baldoni had cried in her trailer over the negative public reaction to Lively's casting. And Heath and Baldoni's practice of hugging other cast and crew members. Baldoni and Heath attempted to explain the innocent context and apologize for any discomfort Lively may have experienced. More deposition from Ange Giannetti and Alex Sachs, that's redacted. On May 30th, 2023, Baldoni wrote messages to Lively and Slate separately, thanking them for their work, stating, "I was made fully aware of your concerns. I wanted you to know that they are fully received. I hear you, and adjustments will be made accordingly. I appreciate your feedback and really looking forward to working with you at the end of the week." And Giannetti testified that, and that's redacted. Neither Lively nor anyone else have identified any other incidents that they believe may have constituted sexual harassment or discrimination after June 1st, 2023. Deposition from Jenny Slate, that is redacted. Sarowitz has no first-hand knowledge of anyone on the set of It Ends With Us, advising Baldoni that any behavior was unwelcome. Prior to this litigation, Sarowitz was not aware of any formal HR complaints that were filed in connection with the film. Sarowitz was not aware of any SAG complaints that were raised concerning Baldoni's behavior on the set of the film. Nor was he aware of any reported allegations of misconduct prompting an HR investigation at Wayfarer Studios. Nor does Sarowitz have any knowledge of any actual behavior on set that could be described as sexual advances or requests for sexual favors, verbal abuse of a sexual nature, commentary about an individual's body, sexual prowess or sexual deficiencies, sexual jokes and innuendo, leering, whistling or touching, insulting or obscene comments or gestures, display in the workplace of sexually aggressive, suggestive objects or pictures, or other physical, verbal, or visual conduct of a sexual nature outside of the subject matter of the film itself. Just covering all bases there. That's proper legal writing. Sarowitz is not aware of any complaints raised on set that were not resolved. Sarowitz was aware that Jenny Slate had a concern on set at one point, but he was not aware of the specifics of the issue and believed it was resolved. To his knowledge, there were no additional issues or concerns raised by Slate. Sarowitz has never talked to Slate or met her. Sarowitz is unaware of any alleged complaint by Lively that Baldoni referred to her as sexy. On June 1st, 2023, redacted. Filming halted on June 14th, 2023 due to the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA strikes. During the filming hiatus, Lively announced a list of protections. On July 19th, 2023, approximately 1 month after filming had been interrupted due to the writers' strikes, Lively wrote to redacted. She told redacted. She continued redacted. On August 29th, 2023, Lively wrote to her agent redacted. During the next 2 months, Lively did not file any HR complaint. On November 9th, 2023, Lively's attorney sent the Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs at Wayfarer and outside counsel to It Ends With Us movie a list of protections for return to production. In an email accompanying the list, Lively's attorneys stated that the list was being provided to remedy the misconduct that Miss Lively and others had allegedly reported. Lively's attorney further stated that items on the list would need to be observed by the film's producers. In order for Lively to feel safe returning to the production, the email also stated, "While we reserve all legal rights at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward." It continued, "This letter is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as a waiver, release, or relinquishment of any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved." Several of the requested protections were already substantially in place. Lively requested that an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when she was on set. It Ends With Us movie had already retained an intimacy coordinator, and we do know that's Lizzie Talbot. Lively requested a closed set for any scene involving simulated sex or nudity subject to a nudity rider and demanded that there be no rehearsal or filming of intimate scenes without such a rider in place. She didn't sign her nudity rider for ages. Lively also sought an exception to the closed set requirement for an unspecified representative of her choosing. The film's intimacy coordinator had already sought Lively's input on all intimate scenes in advance, and the parties had negotiated a nudity rider that Lively had already been provided. Lively requested pre-approval of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. The offer letter setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that there would be no nudity or simulated sex without artists, prior written consent and negotiation execution of nudity rider. Lively requested that any footage involving any nudity and or simulated sex previously shot without the nudity rider in place could not be used. There were no such scenes. Redacted. Lively requested that no one enter a trailer while she was in a state of undressed. Then we have some redacted deposition transcript. Lively requested an A-list stunt double approved by herself to rehearse and perform any scenes depicting rape or sexual violence. The offer letter setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that Lively had approval rights over any double. And that's right, stunt double and body double. Lively had the say and approval, not just over her own doubles, by the way, also over Baldoni's, and that is in her offer letter and loan out agreement. Yeah, it's the offer letter. That is in her offer letter, right at the start of the film. Before when Lively first come onto the film, that was already there. And not only did she have the control to dictate who would be put in the roles as her own doubles for both stunt and nudity, she had control over who would be selected as doubles for Baldoni. So the control, again, as I've said in my other videos, the control she had when she is complaining of harassment, which is predicated specifically on a power imbalance, is absolutely crazy, and I have never seen this kind of someone who basically had so much control to start with, gained even more along the way after the alleged harassment, then turn around and say that they were harassed and silenced and they couldn't do this, and the anxiety caused them to be unable to get out of bed in the morning. Absolutely wild. Other protections implicated Lively's own conduct. I loved this in the memorandum, so I'm looking forward to this bit. Lively requested that there was to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving physical touching or simulated nudity. On May 19th, 2023, Lively oversaw a scene she herself added to the script in which her character kissed Baldoni's character in every take, although there was no kiss in the script. Lively requested that no comments be made concerning her personal physical appearance. And then we've got some redactions. And let's not forget she commented on Baldoni's nose in the dance scene. On one occasion, Lively advocated redacted. Video footage also shows Lively explaining to a group of male crew members why her boots are so sexy, because they are just bone-hitting wood. What the fuck does she even talk about? Why does she think, this is how tone deaf she is, why does she think that male crew members are going to be remotely interested in why those ridiculous boots are, in her opinion, sexy? But we do have a video clip. We have video clips. I can't wait to do the exhibits video. Lively also commented on the physical appearance of other actors in connection with the project, both before and after issuing these demands. When discussing one potential actor in the film with Baldoni on March 29, 2023, Lively said she was meeting Redacted. When discussing the marketing of the film in May 2024, Lively wrote to a younger male cast member, Redacted. Oh. That should be fun. Lively requested there be no physical touching, including hugging of herself, her on-set personnel and or her employees. Lively herself had initiated hugs with Baldoni, as had several members of her staff. More broadly, all staff members had engaged in enlarged Redacted. A producer on the film observed that Redacted. Video footage shows Baldoni hugging male members of the cast and crew as well. Yeah, that was an important point because for sexual harassment, it's got to be like, Baldoni's hugging her because of her gender. And I said in my last video on the memorandum, what a very important point they make is, no, there is a video clip where Baldoni is actually hugging male cast members and crew too. So it is not specific to gender, therefore there is no discrimination. Lively requested there to be no discussions of personal experiences with sex or nudity. Lively had previously volunteered to Baldoni details of her personal sex life. Lively's list also included several items that were wholly unrelated to her sex, gender, or physical appearance, including demands that Baldoni not speak to her dead father, mention his own religious beliefs, or ask for hers, or have private multi-hours meetings in Lively's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying, as well as a demand that Lively receive notice of COVID exposures on set. The defendants are pressured to accept Lively's demands. So Wayfarer's in-house legal team went back and said that the protections, certain points of the 17 protections were not viable. There's a bit of back and forth. There's looks like there's sealed deposition from Warren Zavala, Lively's WME agent, and Ange Giannetti. That is sealed. More from Ange Giannetti. I'm dying to see Ange Giannetti's deposition. I mean, you can bet it is in here because it is helpful to Wayfarer. It is not in here because it supports Lively. The contract rider agreement. So this is obviously the letter. This is what was initially the 17-point list of productions that Jamie Heath eventually signed. On December 15th, 2023, Lively's counsel sent Wayfarer's legal team a draft side letter, i.e. a draft of what Lively's first amended complaint refers to as the contract rider agreement. In an accompanying email, Lively's counsel stated that the draft letter redacted. Following further negotiations, on or about January 19th, 2024, Heath, acting on behalf of It Ends With Us movie, signed the CRA as a rider to the long-form agreement that was contemplated in the offer letter. Okay. Now, skip over some of this a bit because it's about the contract riders and the loan out agreements, etc. Okay. Following Lively's insistence on a list of protections and the execution of the CRA, her role in the production and involvement in the film was not constrained or diminished in any way. Instead, Lively's control over the film continued to expand. On December 28, 2023, Baldoni wrote that although he was angry and upset about letting Blake take over a film and rewrite a movie we spent years developing, writing, and funding, I am waving the white flag and submitting. I'm going to give her 98% of what she wants. Lively and her husband make additional demands during a meeting at her home. This could be interesting. On January 4th, 2024, Lively, Baldoni, Heath, and others met at Lively's apartment at Lively's request. Remember, she was always going to call this meeting from the point she submitted the 17-point. Like this was not, something else happened. It's being portrayed that way, but this was part of the 17-point agreement that she would have an all-hands meeting. Except it is not particularly all hands, and it's not even in the workplace. It doesn't involve HR, no one from SAG-AFTRA, nothing. Okay. So deposition transcripts. We know Ange Giannetti was present at that meeting, and there's a lot of deposition from Ange Giannetti that is redacted here. During the meeting, Lively read a longer list of demands off her phone. In addition to the protections discussed above, these demands appeared to refer to several incidents Lively had raised previously, including Baldoni's reference to circumcision in their first meeting, his discreet inquiry about her weight in April 2023, and the events she had discussed in June 2023, such as the birth video she was shown by Heath, and Baldoni's references to his prior pornography addiction, as well as insinuations that defendants needed to be told not to discuss personal experiences with sex or make sexual comments to female cast or crew. Lively also demanded that Baldoni not speak to her dead father, mention his own religious beliefs, or have private multi-hour meetings in Lively's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying. Lively also demanded notice of COVID exposures on set. Although the attendees were stunned by the nature of the meeting, they made efforts to assuage Lively's anger though neither Heath nor Baldoni admitted any wrongdoing. Sarowitz was not present at the meeting that took place in New York on January 4, 2024. He does not recall exactly what he learned about the meeting. Sarowitz recalls speaking to Baldoni about the meeting at some point in time, but he does not know the exact date they spoke. Sarowitz was never aware that anyone ever referred to the meeting as a HR complaints meeting. Well, it's not, because it didn't follow correct protocols. Sarowitz is aware that Lively sent a list of demands for her return to work, which were honored. Sarowitz has no knowledge that anyone at Wayfarer Studios committed any of the acts implied in the list of demands. Sarowitz understood that Wayfarer Studios acceded to Lively's list of demands under duress and with a caveat saying that the studio did not necessarily agree with the demands. Around the time Lively provided her list of demands, representatives from Wayfarer Studios spoke to counsel who advised there were no events that they felt would require an investigation. After making her protections demands, Lively revised several scenes to be more sexually charged. Of course she did. So some redacted testimony. In a revision of Lively redacted, Lively explained that she was trying to redacted. In her revised scene, redacted, sex. Later the characters are described as redacted. Sorry guys, I am working with what there is in front of me. In another December 2023 revision, Lively directed Baldoni's character to say redacted. The second phase of filming, including all of Lively's intimate scenes, proceeded without incident. Production resumed on January 5th, 2024. The second phase of filming took place primarily on a New Jersey set and with a few additional days in California. That day, Lively told Slate, redacted. 1 week into filming on January 14th, Lively told Slate, redacted. And then there's quite a bit of redactions from Warren Zavala. Lively also redacted. Filming concluded on February 9th, 2024. Lively exercised near total control over the second half of production. Of course she did. A lot of redactions. In fact, that section is entirely redacted. Lively used the influence of her famous friends to take over the film entirely. On or about February 22nd, 2024, Lively told Sony that she would not agree to promote the film unless she was permitted to participate in the edit. During the ensuing weeks, Lively redacted. Lively told famous friends, redacted. She also did not hesitate to disparage Baldoni among her Hollywood crowd, describing him, redacted, for example, as redacted. Lively urged redacted as well as her famous friends, redacted. For instance, in April 26, 2024 messages, redacted. Lively responded, redacted. Lively also demanded changes to the film's credits, including redacted, and removing a credit stating that It Ends With Us was a film by Baldoni altogether. Okay, some redacted testimony from Josh Greenstein. Lively also insisted that Baldoni's image be removed from marketing materials, and that the film's poster, which ultimately just featured Lively herself. And then we've got a bunch of redactions. The film's post-production supervisor wrote redacted. Lively asserted redacted. Josh Greenstein, the president of Sony's Motion Picture Group, wrote redacted. On July 7th, 2024, Lively told redacted. The film premiered in New York City on August 6, 2024, and it was released to the public on August 9, 2024. Lively and her husband took steps to harm Baldoni's reputation. On or about July 17, 2023, during the filming hiatus and before presenting her protections demands, Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds unfollowed Baldoni on Instagram. After the conclusion of filming and leading up to the premiere, Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds openly attacked and disparaged Baldoni, seeking to tarnish his reputation in Hollywood, including among their famous and powerful friends, as well as with fellow cast members and in the media. For instance, redacted. During the relevant period, redacted. On July 13th, 2024, redacted. On or about June 20th, 2024, a promotional event for the film was held at Book Bonanza, Hoover's annual romance book convention. Baldoni was not permitted to attend. I was shocked in how much of a traitor she really is, Colleen Hoover. Like, we knew it, but to see those text messages where she reframed all this shit, and Justin Baldoni, thank God, had the screenshots to show that she was lying. Wow, that really angered me. Like, what are these people thinking? It's just such opportunistic people, horrible people. In July, Lively excluded Baldoni from a marketing shoot for the film conducted by her husband's marketing company, Maximum Effort. So I'm guessing this is going to be the junket with Brandon Sklenar and Ryan Reynolds' mum and Hugh Jackman, for whatever reason. Lively and others at Sony were aware that the media, including social media, was picking up on Lively's efforts to alienate Baldoni from the cast and film while generating adverse publicity about Baldoni. For instance, redacted. Lively took steps to exclude Baldoni from the premiere of his own film. I can't wait for all of this to be unsealed. On or about July 22nd, 2024, redacted. Ultimately, Baldoni and the Wayfarer team were not allowed to be on the red carpet during the premiere except during specified times when Lively was not present. Baldoni and his team were also required to wait in a basement while Lively conducted her red carpet pictures and then view the film on a separate screen. Baldoni, Heath and Wayfarer retained a crisis PR firm to assist and advise them in the face of growing adverse media attention. For years prior to the events at issue here, Jennifer Abel, a public relations professional, had worked with Wayfarer and Baldoni on PR matters. Wayfarer and Baldoni were concerned that any adverse media would harm the reception and success of the film. Even as the negative press intensified, Wayfarer gave Abel and her colleagues explicit instructions not to place any story that was negative about Blake or otherwise. Our main focus was to mitigate the negative press that was breaking organically from the press tour. That's a quote from Abel's deposition transcript. On July 24, 2024, Heath and Jen Abel agreed that redacted, in response to the swirling press rumours. On or about July 25th, 2024, Baldoni and Heath first met with TAG, Melissa Nathan's PR firm, to discuss the possibility of retaining the firm for crisis PR. A TAG employee's notes from that meeting state that Wayfarer was not going to fire offensive bullets but wanted to have a strategy. On July 26, 2024, TAG circulated a proposed scope of work. It included providing support for Baldoni and others with independent strategic counsel, curating statements, background information, and talking points for the press reflecting Wayfarer's core values, key messaging, and the integral role they played to bring this film to life. Developing a scenario planning document identifying third-party validators, working to mitigate negative stories, correct inaccuracies, and monitoring coverage, as well as providing input on press strategies and media training. On July 30th, 2024, Wayfarer President Tara Hanks wrote to Stephanie Jones, redacted. Okay, then they're talking about Melissa Nathan's scenario planning document. The purpose of the document was scenario planning, with each suggestion being only a possibility. It was not an approved action plan. On August 4th, 2024, TAG employees exchanged messages discussing the redacted because they redacted. In the days after the premiere, negative press against Baldoni intensified. On or about August 7th, 2024, additional cast members unfollowed Baldoni on social media at Lively's prompting. On August 8th, 2024, The Hollywood Reporter published an article entitled, "Did Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni have a rift over It Ends With Us? Sleuthing TikTokers think so." This article discussed Baldoni being excluded from press for the film and unfollowed by Lively and other cast members. On or about 8th of August 2024, Lively's PR representative Leslie Sloan redacted. We have that, so there's redacted transcript from Leslie Sloan's depositions. Sloan testified, redacted. Sloan also redacted. Sloan testified, redacted. On August 8th, 2024, redacted. The same day, redacted. Heath, Abel, and Nathan did not want to add fuel to the fire by prompting additional adverse media. In particular, they told Jones not to contact the press about Lively. Upon learning that Jones had done so, on August 9th, 2024, Heath wrote to Jones, redacted. On August 9th, 2024, the Daily Mail published an article entitled "Disturbing Truth Behind Why Blake Lively and Her It Ends With Us stars are feuding with Justin Baldoni." Written by our friend James Batuska. The guy who just can't pick a side. That article quoted sources asserting Baldoni was chauvinistic and borderline abusive on set. It also noted that rumours of a vicious feud between Lively and Baldoni had been swirling for weeks, with online sleuths highlighting how the on-screen love interests were not pictured together at the US premiere, while some cast members have blatantly swerved questions about the director. That day, Lively's agent wrote to Lively, redacted. Wayfarer hired street relations to monitor social media. Okay, 29 pages left. On August 7th, 2024, Abel wrote to Nathan, I think we really need to put a social combat plan into motion. She noted that she was waiting on a green light from Heath to do so. I won't go into too much into this because we have heard this to death and back. Is there anything different? Lively suffered backlash. Baldoni himself repeatedly made positive comments about Lively in the press, which is true. On August 11th, 2024, the New York Times published an article entitled What It Ends With Us Says About the Blake Lively Brand. The article discussed Blake Lively's efforts to cross-promote the film and her personal hair care and alcohol brands, as well as her husband's branded gin. For instance, it stated a promotional email explained how to make It Ends With Us inspired cocktails using Betty Buzz. One recipe called for Reynolds Gin. It's a cheery gimmick that seems awkwardly out of step with the context of the film itself, which tells the story of a woman dealing with domestic violence. Lively's performance is almost beside the point. Lively has transformed the project into film as commerce. There is no evidence that defendants played any role in this article. On August 13th, 2024, redacted. Also on August 13th, Nathan privately observed to Abel that there was a completely unsolicited story from TMZ. Blake has a huge ego. Justin Baldoni was liked by many cast and crew, and this is her ego being bruised, Abel responded. Not from any of us, obviously. Nathan agreed, totally not from us. Abel concluded, there are clearly people on set coming out to defend Baldoni, which is good, and we just let them do their thing. The same day, Lively wrote to another male cast member, redacted. The cast member responded, redacted. On or about August 19th, 2024, redacted. Prior to these events, Lively had been criticized for redacted. Prior to these events, I don't know if this is a repeat, prior to these events, Lively has also been criticized for problematic on-set behavior while working on a TV show Gossip Girl. These criticisms resurfaced in August 2024. There's quite a lot of redacted stuff there now. As negative sentiment towards Lively accelerated, Baldoni asked his PR team to confirm that it was not using bots or fake accounts to generate positive sentiment for him online. Abel and Nathan both confirmed they were not using bots or fake accounts. I'm not going to go over the text messages. We know them. But basically, they're just saying it's not us. We're not doing anything. Lively and her husband spread negative information about Baldoni and worked to kill negative stories about Lively. There's a lot of redactions there. Ryan Reynolds subpoena, Sloan depositions. We know Ryan Reynolds was not deposed, so information caught from him would have been document production via subpoena. On August 15th, 2024, Sloan wrote to another gossip reporter asking him to change the wording of a headline about the feud between Lively and Baldoni redacted. After reviewing the article, redacted. And then a lot of redactions. During this period, defendants believed that Lively's press team was spreading negative information about Baldoni and using bots. Redacted. Lively failed to uncover proof that defendants spread false information about her. During this litigation, Lively responded to interrogatories seeking identification of the ways in which defendants supposedly seeded social media content to increase the negative sentiment toward Lively. Nearly half the incidents Lively identifies are devoid of any negative content about Lively and merely claim that defendants either suppressed content about Mr. Baldoni or enhanced positive content regarding Mr. Baldoni. These include Baldoni's effort to focus his press and promotion for the film on the issue of domestic violence and to boost videos by others showing him promoting his film. The rest are all redacted. Lively also points to incidents in which certain defendants spoke to press about Lively herself. None of these incidents involve sharing any factual falsehoods about Lively. Instead, they involve pointing out true facts about Lively or her husband's conduct, or sharing negative opinions of that conduct. Redacted. Lively has not put forward any evidence to suggest the little bump video, that's Shusty's, is not genuine or that defendants had any contact with the reporter in the video. And Shusty has, in the interest of, fairness, Shusty has flatly denied that she's ever had any contact with the Wayfarer defendants or their counsel. And her subpoena was withdrawn, by the way, without any information being, handed over to Lively. Sauritz played no role in marketing the film or Wayfarer's publicity strategy. Sauritz was not involved in the marketing of the film and did not review any of the marketing materials for the film created by Wayfarer Studios or Sony. Sauritz did not participate in any respect in any of the preparation in advance of Baldoni's interviews regarding the release of It Ends With Us. Sauritz himself participated in certain interviews in August 2024, but did not do any media interviews in conjunction with the release of It Ends With Us in the first couple of weeks of August 2024. Sauritz was not involved in hiring any PR team for Wayfarer. And I know they're honing in so much on all the things Sauritz was not involved in, but I think this is incredibly important because really, aside from a false allegation that Sauritz turned up on set just to look at her genitals, the only other thing that she's pinning to him is his comment about spending 100 million or whatever is necessary to protect his studio, which she completely misrepresented. And the only thing that sticks in the throat of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, for that matter, about Steve Sauritz, and the only reason they're keeping him in this is because he is funding this litigation. And I do think personally that they are jealous of his wealth. Sauritz was not asked his opinion on hiring TAG before they were retained, nor did he vet TAG before they were retained. Sauritz did not approve the hiring of Street Relations. He was not consulted before they were hired and was not involved in that decision. There is no evidence that Sauritz received or reviewed the scenario planning document circulated by TAG prior to this litigation. There is no evidence that Sauritz ever spoke with Jed Wallace or any employee of Street Relations prior to this litigation. In her interrogatory response, Lively has identified each instance in which the defendants purportedly spread negative information about her. The interrogatory response does not identify any specific instance in which Sauritz himself was involved in circulating any information about Lively whatsoever prior to this litigation, and only one instance in which he weighed in on press strategy concerning Lively. So what they're saying is well, he weren't part of any protected activity, the sexual harassment. He's not involved with Wayfarer on a day-to-day, the administrative functions. He finances projects. But they're also saying not only did he not sexually harass Lively and he was nowhere near her, they're also saying, well, actually he wasn't involved in the hiring of the crisis PR companies either that she is alleging, facilitated the retaliation. Very strong. So if they can get, even if they only come away and get Sauerwitz out of this, because there is so little to hold him in, then that is still a win. Still something. Because honestly, I really, it's more so now I've heard the recording as well, and the context of that statement was in. I still can't see why he is dragged into this. I can't see what claims she is making against him. They make no sense. He had less involvement than Jed Wallace, in my opinion. And, this is disgraceful how he's been treated. So we've got a bunch of redactions, like the whole page. Nearly 2 pages. Sauerwitz had a call with Claire Ayub on August 29th, 2024, which Ayub recorded. During the conversation, Sauerwitz stated the following, that the ends with this drama is simply that. It's a drama. I'm done with it. It's going to happen when it's going to happen. Whatever is going to happen, whatever people want to think, they're going to think. I was worried about it at one point, and now I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. If they like us, great. If they don't, they don't. We are who we are. He further stated that they went after everything we had. Luckily, I was out of it, so, nobody mentioned me. That's because I'm a nobody. Oh, this man is not a nobody. He is the beaten heart. Chances are there would not be a Wayfarer Studios, and these projects would not be being financed without Steve Sauerwitz. That's the reality of this. But in terms of his direct involvement in any of this, in the film, in Wayfarer generally, day to day, he is not really that, tightly involved. And in this particular film, he was, very much in the background, more just financing it. That's because I'm a nobody. I'm nobody, Oh. He further stated Justin never has had a bad set. Yeah, it was the worst set he has ever been on, but no, it wasn't bad. I was there on set. It was, Justin is really kind and loving, and he is like Rain. Actually, Rain is running a set. It's a Baha'i set. It's never going to be like that. No. Everything was made up. It was manufactured, and it was manufactured on purpose in order to take Justin down. Remember, he's saying all this to Claire Ayub, not knowing that he's been recorded. He also stated, I just know that for right now it seems like Dente, and then if they persist and they push to the limits, then we will go to court, and then it's all on me. In response to a question by Ayub as to whether he meant protecting the studio, Sauerwitz replied, I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas. There were 39,000 dead bodies. There will be 2 dead bodies when I'm done. And so not dead, but, but you're dead to me. So that kind of dead, but dead to a lot of people. If they ever get me to that point, then I will make it worth their while, because I'm going to spend a lot of money to make sure the studio is protected. But I don't think we'll go there. Ayub replied, yeah, I hope not. And Sauerwitz stated, that's not the world I want to live in. Sauerwitz further stated, this is not going to go away. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. We'll have to be defensive for years because there will be stuff coming at us. I will be defensive for years. When Sauerwitz said this, he meant that he would defend Wayfarer Studios. Sauerwitz further stated, if they ever cross the line, ever, then I will go after them. Jamie at one point called me up and said, I think we're going to need you. And we have lawyers ready to go. We have our press people, our PR people working. Sauerwitz further commented, you work with so many people and almost everyone is nice. And then there is Blake, who is totally different than everyone. Not to say anything bad about her, but she is different. She is different. And that she is different was in comparison to Ryan Reynolds' first wife, the first Mrs. Reynolds, Scarlett Johansson. Okay, so Lively obtained documents through a sham subpoena, abusing judicial process to serve her own ends. It's got its own section here, but it's almost entirely redacted. So this a lot of transcript and stuff is redacted. On or about October 1st, 2024, taking advantage of New York rules that permit discovery even before issue has been joined, and of the fact that no defendants had been named who could thereby invoke the court's process on their behalf, redacted. Such requests were made even though the complaint did not refer to the film or Jones' works at all. Harris. Who is Harris? I'll have to look at that. We've got Van Zandt Bates number, so discovery was obtained from Van Zandt. And the Jones work subpoena from Van Zandt is in the discovery, but it is under seal. The filing of the lawsuit and the issuance of the subpoena created a legal mechanism by which Lively, through Van Zandt, could ostensibly claim to legitimately obtain documents Jones had found on Abel's phone. Absence of court's compulsory process, Jones could not simply turn over records she found on one of her employees' phones. Redacted, Van Zandt voluntarily dismissed the case on December 19, 2024, without any defendant ever appearing in the action. On December 21st, 2024, the New York Times published a 4,000-word article entitled "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine." The article cited documents from Abel's phone that Van Zandt had obtained by invoking the court's process in a case against 10 anonymous defendants. It appears that Jones agreed to turn over the documents without any protective order or measure to prevent their disclosure. The New York Times article asserted that Baldoni and Heath had violated physical boundaries and made sexual and other inappropriate comments to, and then instituted a retaliatory smear campaign against Lively. The New York Times article included a link to Lively's California State administrative complaint, which had been filed the previous day. Redacted. Through the administrative complaint she provided, Lively and her agents told the New York Times and other media that Baldoni had abruptly pivoted away from the agreed-on marketing for the film to emphasize his support for survivors of domestic violence. That statement is false. Through administrative complaint she provided, Lively and her agents told the New York Times and other media Baldoni and Wayfarer had not used nudity riders or intimacy corders on set until her intervention. That statement is false. Through the administrative complaint she provided, Lively and or her agents told the New York Times and other media Baldoni had suggestively told Lively her neck smells so good during a shot. Video captured of the scene demonstrates that statement was false. Through the administrative complaint she provided, Lively and or her agents told the New York Times and other media Baldoni had routinely degraded Ms. Lively by finding back-channel ways of criticizing her body and weight, including by pretending a scene in the script required him to lift Lively so he could ask her trainer about her weight, and by referring Lively to a weight loss specialist. Those statements were false. And then there's something that's redacted. Lively negotiated every aspect of her work but never reached agreement. So they talk about the offer letter. I'm not going to read it, but they're basically saying, look, we did all these negotiations on your offer letter and on your actor loan agreement, and you never signed anything. Okay. They're just saying what was agreed to, which we've seen. We've seen before. It's nothing unusual. She's going to be paid this, and she's going to be defined as the artist to perform the role of Lily. She'd receive top billing and an executive producer credit, which is not the same as a producer credit. Executive executive producer credit is just like a ceremonial title where she doesn't have to do anything. It's just like something they give to stars of a certain caliber. And it's part of negotiation, but it doesn't mean anything. A producer credit means there's been a lot of work on the film, control of the film, a lot of creative decisions have been made, a lot of administrative stuff as well, such as budgeting decisions have been made. So that is why that's what Lively wanted, but she got the executive producer instead as the initial negotiations. What she then strived was to take over, Isabella Ferrer's nudity rider, the wardrobe, the budget, the script, etc. And that is what led to her being able to say, I've done enough for the producer credit, the PGA that she got in the end. So they're saying they paid her a substantial fee, etc. And there would be various other things. There were months of negotiations, exchanges of drafts. The offer letter was finalised in early May 2023 and dated March 17th, 2023. The offer letter did not contain any terms regarding sexual harassment. Wayfarer itself, as opposed to Ends With Us movie, undertook no obligations under the offer letter. The offer letter expressly and unambiguously provided that full execution of a long-form agreement to be subsequently negotiated was a condition precedent to It Ends With Us obligations are understated. Okay. And it sounds like a neighbour's car alarm's going off. So the unexecuted ACTA loan-out agreement, as I say, she didn't sign it. Most contracts, that wouldn't make too much difference if people, if it's not signed, because if she's performing her role and they've paid her, then basically the contract has been adhered to by performance. Unless there is a specific clause that says, without this being signed, which is the situation here. The first section of the draft ALA, Actors Loan-Out Agreement, referred expressly to conditions precedent, stating that conditions precedent to companies' obligations under this agreement included companies' receipt of executed copies of this agreement signed by lender and artist. So there was an express term in the first section of the Actors Loan-Out Agreement that said that referred to the conditions precedent in the offer letter that required the execution, of the agreement, including signature by the lender and the artist. Okay, so I won't go over that too much because some people may find that overly boring. If people want a specific video, because this is kind of where I, company and corporate law is where I was working for a long time, and is where my postgraduate specialisms are. I'm happy to go through it in more depth. I have got into quite a bit more detail on the memorandum. I'm acutely aware that I am now repeating stuff that is in memorandum. That's why I didn't want to go over this again. But if anyone does want to go over it again and have it like a designated video on this, I'm happy to do that. If you just let me know in the comments. So they are. So they're just saying again, the basically the point of all of this is to reiterate that the agreement was never executed, it was never signed, and for the breach of contract, Lively did not give the required notice. to It Ends With Us movie. She also did not give them the designated 30 days to cure any breaches before filing for a breach of contract claim, which would kill the claim. And they reiterate how much control, and I cannot. I think I keep saying it because I really can't. I'm stunned with how much control she had over everything. Her body double, Baldoni's body double. She had control over Baldoni's body double. Just let that sit for a minute, right? What world would most people get that kind of control from in an employment setting? She had control over. The use of a private jet. She could pick the frickin' plane. It's just not only could she pick the pilot, she could pick the actual jet itself. It was just mental. And it's not just for her benefit, by the way. It was for her children and her husband, her family, her assistants and staff. So we're just talking here about, all the stuff that she got, all the benefits and everything. Nonetheless, although the parties negotiated for more than a year, Lively never signed any long-form agreement setting out the complete terms of her engagement with the film. There's a bunch of redactions. They're also saying, Lively did not at any point during the negotiations neither side suggested changes to the entire agreement provision. Nor did Lively ever seek to add Wayfarer as a party to the draft agreement, nor was Wayfarer ever made a party or signatory to the draft agreement. And you cannot just say, well, It Ends With Us is effectively Wayfarer. You can't do that. The same as Ryan Reynolds is now the CEO of Van Zandt. I don't know if he was at the time. It may have been Lively, but as of now, today, he is. But he is not. Just because he is the CEO does not mean he is. You can just substitute and say, right, okay, well, Van Zandt did this, but I'm going to go after Ryan Reynolds as an individual, or I'm going to go over after Maximum Effort because Ryan Reynolds also owns that company. That doesn't work like that. Lively actively refused to sign the ALA as well, because remember they tried to get her to sign it when she wanted them to agree to the 17-point list of demands. Bunch of stuff redacted, like big blocked. Here we could not even have the white lines. Okay. Lively sued without providing notice and an opportunity to cure. And this was well written in the memorandum, this point. Lively's representatives sent a cease and desist letter addressed to certain defendants and others on December 20th, 2024. The letter was not addressed to It Ends With Us movies. The cease and desist letter alleged, inter alia, that the addressees had breached the protections for return to production and or Lively's contract rider. The cease and desist letter did not allege any independent breach of the ALA. Lively filed her initial complaint in this action on December 31st, 2024. Then they go on to say Lively's damages are barred, and they've redacted almost all of it. Yeah, no, in the entirety actually. So that's the end of that. Okay. Wow, that was really long-winded, but I find it useful to go through that document. Not everyone does, but I find there's meat and bones in there, little bits of tea that are not in the main memorandum. And it's interesting as well because when you get the references to, even though it's redacted, you can see like, oh, it's Alex Sachs's deposition, or so you can see who's saying it. Like, you might not know what's being said, but like who's participating in these conversations, and it gives you a bit of a hint. And I know it's kind of frustrating to say, and she said redacted, and they did redacted, but I find that as part of the entertainment of this, I guess, in some ways. And sometimes might get the odd phrase in the middle of these big redactions that gives you a little hint of what's coming, or it just kind of alludes to something. But certainly it's always good to see the references as well to the sources when you can see the Bates, the names on the Bates numbers, like where's this come from? Whose discovery was this from? Whose deposition is it from? It's always a really good eye opener. Okay, so that's another really long document. I think next part 3 is going to be we have got a number of declarations, so I'm probably going to go through them. I'm not going to read them in full if they are just repeating what is already being said, not just in this motion in general, but over the course of all the complaints, motions, various motions and stuff like that. I'm just going to read the information that we have not seen yet, or we now have new information, or something's been expanded upon. I think that's what I'm going to do. As always, there will be maybe a shorter video. I've made some notes of certain paragraphs that were of interest to me, so I will do a much shorter video. I'll get the long ones out first. There's at least 2 more coming, long ones. First will be the declarations, and then the second will be going through the last one will be going through the exhibits. So I'll get them out first, and then I've already, after I do this, I will then immediately do the short version of this, and then the short ones will all come out together as well. Again, this is just Wayfarer's motion. I was expecting something from Lively. It has not arrived. I don't know what the reason is, or if she's going to. That remains to be seen. But I think we were all braced for a Lively motion for summary judgment, where I don't know where that is. I also don't know where her opposition to the motion on judgment on the pleadings, Wayfarer's motion. Don't know where her opposition is for that, because that was due today, from what I remember. I will double check the deadline dates, because maybe I have forgotten something. There is a huge amount of information and a number of dockets to keep track of, and it's not always something I can do off the top of my head. So I will go back and have a look. I don't normally ask this, but I'm going to, because I probably should. But it would be a huge help to my channel if people could like and subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and hit the notification bell. And if you have the option to hype, that would be so helpful to me as well. I appreciate you. Thank you. And I will be back for part 3 soon.